Welcome to this episode of The Captain's Table. I'm Mara.
Howdy, folks. Spencer here.
And I am Cheops.
And we're going to continue talking about Star Trek Online, all things high-end, educational, and economical. So how you guys doing today?
Good. I don't know if I would talk about economics with the whale on board here.
Whoa. That's incredibly toxic. And I thought you were going by Cheops now.
I was until you started saying it, and now I don't like it anymore.
Oh, no.
Ridiculous.
Been hating life, doing solo ISCs.
Yeah, no, I mean mood.
I attempted to do some ISCs on alts just to see if I could get them through, and that went oddly.
Yeah, solo ISCs have sort of just been the flavor of the high end recently. It's been kind of cool.
Yeah. Having tables for it on Oscar, along with the other solo tables, it's given people something different to do.
Especially with the server performance, it's nice to have something that's not constantly shitting the bed.
Yeah,
and it's all you. It comes down to being all you. It's not the rest of a team. It's not the pugs. It's all you, and that's nice.
That must be why I do so poorly in them.
Yeah, I know you're terrible.
Yep, terrible.
Listen, if it's a straight line and it takes 10 seconds, I'm good. Anything more than that, and I just fall apart. Just ask my wife.
Oh, okay. So, we're in 2025 now. So
that's crazy.
We've had a hell of a year with content. Why don't we take a peek? The 14th anniversary bundle was really interesting.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is initially, because of the premium ship they put in there, the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer, the initial reaction was not good. I myself was very critical of it, but when we got the ships and saw just the amount of power creep that the 4 new ships in the bundle were bringing in, that immediately caused us to shift our perspective on the bundle. Like, it immediately went from being something that looked mid to something that became the meta.
But from a visual standpoint, I didn't like anything in there. I don't like the old, like the 3 nacelle look where it's like scraping the bottom. And then you had the Tal Shiar adapted. Just looking at the bundle, I was like, this isn't for me. And then I started to see everything that was on the ships, and it was like, oh crap, it is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we look at this? The Iwani, probably now the most important ship in the game.
Yeah, that is, like, when I do my next, or when I do a best send store ship, that is ship number 1. Like, that is a ship that everyone should have. That is basically the new Arbiter. Back in the day, everyone had to get the Arbiter, and now it's everyone needs to have the Iwani.
Yeah, Fleet Power Network Array has utterly shifted how things are done. The tremendous amount of haste potential that comes out of it, and the fact that it can be stacked from other players, which lends itself to supported runs, it's just become cornerstone.
And the pets.
Yep. It's been interesting to watch the high-end leaderboard setting meta shift from Torps and EPG just to pure do.
It's been wonderful, because running those other builds, energy weapons just to feel so much better to run. After doing Torps for a couple years, it was relieving to go back to energy weapons.
I'm a Cannon Skirly. I didn't stop. 2016 happened, CSV got buffed, and I've been flying it since.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons I like Fleet Power so much is just because it made getting access and getting onto leaderboards, if DPS chasing is your thing, that much more accessible.
Yeah.
Torps were so expensive and difficult to manage that this is a breeze compared to it.
And Type 7s also made it much easier for a team to go in and get those higher debuff levels.
Yep.
It enabled the current solo meta from like when we were running those carriers a little while ago to when I started running Scatter Volley and you all started following.
Oh.
Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I'm taking off my collar then.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, and then that brings us to the Atlantis, which is kind of what was the prototype for me for what we ended up doing in solo, with access to an experimental weapon slot and the high uncon potential. In light of what came out of the Heritage bundle, the hexacannons, that was sort of the beginning of it all, the Atlantis.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch too. Again, from like somebody who is mostly on a team, not doing a lot of left rights and whatnot, and being kind of locked to a 5-3, to watching people like you who are like really trying to pioneer the left right to get as high as possible, shift to the 5-2-1. That's been an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah. I started doing it because Kraust and Michi were running the Atlantis, and in pugging environments, that was a really good place to start. It's beautiful, it's fast, it's snappy.
And that's where most people, like 99.5% of what everybody in Stowe lives, is either going to be in pugs or a channel run. So having that introduced to them is nice for them.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you don't see more people running the Atlantis. It's a ship that I feel people have slept on a bit. It is such an incredible platform, and I know Merrick Worker gets a lot of focus from the general player base, but with where the meta is right now, especially for that random content, the Atlantis is like the perfect ship for it.
Thanks to Voven too.
Yeah, I mean, to establish what's going on here, the Voven from the summer ship really changed how we do things. The console cools down all of your universal active consoles with every activation, which allows us to get much more uptime on them. This means that we're not using passive consoles anywhere as much, and the trait Unconventional Systems, which also cools down universal consoles, has much more play. And the Atlantis can run a lot of procs for Unconventional Systems.
Yep, and those are all cooling down. The thing that cools down your cooldowns with the Voven console. You pop the Voven console at 30 seconds, you hit all your uncons, and then you're almost ready to hit Voven again.
It's a beautiful machine.
Mm-hmm. It's very active.
It's a very active play style, which I know not everyone's a fan of.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I didn't like it at first because I'm very lazy and I just like to hit my space bar. But then you see the potential of it. It's like, okay, I need to relearn how to do all this and keybind everything. And your fingers are always, oh, this sounds awful. You're always active on the keyboard. Sorry.
Awful.
I'm yeah, it's late and I'm having a coffee and for some reason I've turned into a child. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we were kind of also sleeping on talking about the trait here. The Atlantis comes with another really tasty C-store accessible DPS trait.
Yep, temporal tunneling is fantastic. Every single one of my alts is running it.
Yeah. With was it best served cold, you can have pretty much perfect what was it? 1/3 uptime on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 15-second cooldown. If people will start getting into this, you'll notice you need to space out your best served cold because that little ability loves to misfire.
Yeah. No, it's if I remember correctly, it's 100% haste for 5 seconds every 15. So that's a really big boost, and it's sort of this trend here of C-store stuff becoming more powerful and more accessible, as opposed to a lot of our shit coming from promo and lockbox. Which, if we look at the promo and lockbox roster of this year, we haven't really taken anything off of it except for maybe the Credence.
I'm so thankful for that. So is my wallet.
I mean, the only thing is the one that did end up being good, the Credence, that console, it's aggravating to use because of the 2-second activation, but it is just so powerful that we've put that on our DPS builds at the high end and also all of our support builds. It is just crazy how good that console is for buffing up both energy weapons and also pets.
Oh, it's core to the carrier meta.
Yeah,
It's tremendous.
as is Fleet Power.
Yep, yep. Well, again, more universal applicability. Like it's such a cool thing to have a C store purchase be cornerstone again.
Yeah,
For sure.
The other stuff in the bundle was cool. Like I mean, the Awani's trait is a support trait that sees a lot of play.
the
Um,
Princeton with the fractal integrity bleed, I think it is.
yeah, huh?
Yeah, that's been really interesting for some high end tank builds where you're looking to use your high hull capacity to then get some additional damage. That's actually pretty effective on those really high HP builds.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We got the Chekhov, which honestly is a really solid do-side platform. Like if you're looking to have some fun with a more off meta setup, it's a really great buy.
Yeah, I never got into the EPG. I didn't even buy the whole bundle. I used 2 coupons to get the Atlantis and the Awani.
And something I keep forgetting is in the bundle, because I already owned it, was the Lafayette, which has another really great support console.
And trait.
Oh yeah, and trait. The that's what was it? Jubilant Cadence?
Jubilant. Yeah.
Yep. So the console is just a huge targeted debuff, and Jubilant Cadence gives speed, turn rate, and it's just really tasty. It's a really satisfying bundle.
Yeah. The only thing with Jubilant is make sure your teammates know that you're using it, because if they don't know that they're going to be getting the speed from it, that they're going to have issues.
It is endlessly entertaining to watch somebody try and precision fly an eagle and they don't know that's on there, and then they
Oh no.
zoom off into the gate.
Poor Nicholas. He's not even here.
um, Looking at what else we got this year that was a big deal, the Heritage bundle, which like from as a Star Trek nerd, that bundle made me so happy on a thematic level.
I was just gonna say, out of all the bundles, I think I enjoyed that the most, just because those ships were just different and fun to fly, and I wasn't really concerned with like trying to set a record or even having any part of them be in my runs. So they were just fun to just poop it around in space. It also just some of them just actually I think well 2 of them at least just happened to have something that was also very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were very much fun ships. The actual stats of the ships themselves was not impressive, but yeah, the accessories on them were good, and just flying them around, yeah, they're fun ships. The Typhon with that console it has, that's really fun.
It's a really effective tank console. I have a video floating around of just parking in the middle of HSE with like a low DPS group, so I'm surviving forever, and I can just sit there with that console up and just like hazard emitters, and I'm fine.
Yeah, Nick's I think Nick did a whole video on just that ship, using it as a little Chungus tank.
Yeah,
I wish that console wasn't animation locked because it's so nice.
very immersive.
And then we have the Achilles, which is an okay ship, but what it comes with is more meta items. Like you've got the Phalanx Array, which, if you're dealing with hard targets at all, is brutal as hell.
Yeah, the trick is just knowing when to use it, like anything, really, I guess.
Yeah, that is been getting a lot of damage in the solo ISC runs, but it's also useful in a ton of different content. But it really is, yeah. You just got to make sure you're using it at the right time. You don't want to spam bar it.
No, you don't. It's the tracking on the torpedoes it fires is slow, so you gotta position well. You need to make it helps to have your ship aligned with the animation to get the damage applied a little faster, and it helps even further to have field control so you can grab roll a bunch of things onto your hard target and get explosion damage. It's capable of 6-figure damage, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the seekers stick around for a while too. They'll
Mm-hmm.
if there's as long as there's another target around, they'll find it. It is fun though when the everything dies and they just explode in your face and your frames drop to about 2.
Yeah. I was seeing that in the start of some runs because I'd use that against the starting cube, and I'd be flying right through, and my frames would just go
Boop.
to nothing.
Yep. Yep. And then, of course, the almighty hexacannons. Oh my god. Nothing has dropped in the last, I don't know how long, that has felt so good.
Yeah, it is just crazy how far ahead of every other experimental weapon they are. That there is no competition. That is the experimental weapon to use. You are losing DPS, you're losing damage with any other experimental weapon.
It's what's made 521's the thing to use.
Yeah. And actually, just this morning, I was going in and I was doing some more solo ISCs because I hate myself. And I took the Gorn Plasma experimental weapon in on my one of the solo ISC runs just to see what the numbers would look like. And it did half the damage. It's just, it is crazy. And the Hexacannons, they're getting a bit of shield damage too. So they were helping take the shield facing down on the target I was shooting, whereas the Gorn, it just couldn't keep up.
The hexagons are extremely good, but I do know a lot of people don't really like the CSV cannons type playstyle, and the narrow arc on those things can be really limited for some pilots. So they're probably better off with something that's either 360 or like 180 or even 90. But I would say that if you find yourself in that boat, you owe it to yourself to try and practice your piloting. So where your target is always in front of you, so you can absolutely unload on them with those cannons. They will make a huge difference in your own damage if that's what you're after.
And just to say it, like, people look at you funny when you say use the hexacannons and you're not on a phaser build. Let me tell you, it does not matter. It does not matter if you're using phaser mags or if you're using polaron locators. Use the hexas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blame the game for that and the limited teachings that it gives, because people still think that you can't use Domino just because if you're not using a phaser build.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the hexes are absolutely tremendous. And on the note of the hexes, we have the Gemini device, which is one of the few things in the game that'll buff the hexes, and that comes off of the premonition from the bundle.
The only bad thing about that console is the issue where it slows you down when you activate it. Aside from that's a great console. The haste from it's good, and those Enterprise Fs actually do a surprising amount of damage.
They do, and if you bring them on a carrier build, they do an even more surprising amount of damage. I've gotten over 100,000 DPS out of them on a carrier.
Damn.
I never, I wasn't paying super close attention, but is there a mechanic that cools that console down faster than normal? Because I get that back
It's got a
faster than
90
any other
second base
console.
cooldown.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
It's tasty. It's real tasty. So that just to elaborate, the active when you click it gives you some more haste, and it's weapon haste. So instead of affecting only your energy weapons like most haste sources, it affects all of your weapons, including the hexes.
And if you really like Omnis, if you really like Odysseys, and you're on the Atlantis or some other ship with high uncon, you can have like 4 Odysseys
Well,
flying
not
around
just
you at
Odysseys,
once.
Enterprise apps. That matters.
Oh my god, nerds.
That another like absolute banger bundle.
Real quick, real quick before you move on, I just wanted to say, just to a certain person that might be listening, Connie 3, best ship.
I
All
was
right, go
gonna
ahead.
say some people also really like the Valor pets from that bundle. I
Yeah.
don't really use them because Type 7s are a thing, but I know for carrier builds those are some solid
Thank you
pets.
for reminding me. The Valors are really good. They're like top 2, top 3 pets. Um, and with Sad, of course. And they what's really great about it in the bundle is that they just come straight elite. So no matter what, on all of your tunes, that anytime you want to pop a carrier build out, you've got Valors ready to go for free.
Yeah, and that saves you a lot because for those of you not familiar with the typical cost of elite pets, you're looking at 100,000 fleet credits and around 40 to 45,000 dilithium per bay of them. So you're saving quite a bit by getting those from the Heritage Bundle.
And speaking of carriers, I can't believe I forgot this too. repurposed cargo bag. Uh, Amazing carrier trait off the Typhon. Gives you a whole extra cargo bay of fighters, and you have a horde out now. Like the old school pet builds where you just have every single possible summon to get as many out as possible were cool and stuff, but now we can do that effectively.
I kind of wish it was called repurposed
I know,
cargo
right?
cargo bag. That would be. That would. Be, I'm just trying to figure. Just dragging a big ass bag of ships.
That would
behind
be
you.
funny.
But yeah, that was a fun trait to mess around with. And if Deca, if they're ever listening, ever decides to prorate bundles based on the ships you own, I will actually buy the entire bundle just for those.
Mm-hmm. I'm sad to say that I don't think prorating is in our future just because of how complicated it is, but
Yeah, I know.
like especially because you have like like you'd have to price all of the bonuses out. Like how much do the fluff items cost and how much of the ship value is subtracted. It's a lot of work, and I don't see it happening.
Though they already do that for the Jem'Hadar starter ship and the whole
Yeah.
big gem bundle. They do that for that ship, but they don't do it for the Cardi bundle.
They did it for one, saw how much work it was, and was like, they were like,
Nah.
no more, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the two big bundles that came out this year. But that, unless I'm forgetting something, but
The Dyson, it is
right,
worth
the Dyson.
mentioning,
Mm.
especially the Lola. I think it is with the proton disruption console that has.
Yeah, the Proton Eruptor. Yeah.
yeah.
The ships themselves were kind of I mean, they're not bad. They're not stellar, but they're cool, and like that counts for something.
They're decent, some decent size ships to play around with. They're not the best, but if you're looking for a KDF or ROM size ship that's a bit more modern, they're going to be better than some of the other options out there and much more affordable.
The Rallus makes a pretty good DuSci platform, if I remember correctly. It's temp intel, so that's like the combo.
The only issue is with those ships is the cooldown to swap between the attack and psi modes is like a minute.
Yeah, I'd honestly leave them in their starting configuration and be done with it.
Did the Lola have a good
psi
console?
Yeah, the
we just talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, did you already say that?
It's fine. Yeah, the to elaborate on it, the Proton Eruptor is a effect that when you have a primary target, it starts doing proton damage to the primary target and then secondary targets around it, and it does a lot of damage. It just does a lot of damage.
Yeah, that was a bundle I skipped.
Well, it ended up being a bit of a cheaper bundle. I think it was like $100 base, so 10,000 Zen. So 6,500 Zen during a 35% sale to get 3 science ships, 3 Admiralty cards. There was a T6 coupon with it too, right?
Let me look at the bundle. Yep, 9 tokens and a ship coupon.
Yeah, I know people that bought that just to sell the tokens.
One of the reasons I went for the entire thing is because economically, for $65 worth of Zen, I was getting 3 ships, one of which had a really good sci console. One was, like you said, a decent DuSci platform. And then you had the T6 coupon that you could sell for around $3 to $350, and the 9 T6X tokens, which I think I sold mine for around 700 mil total. Like basically $1 billion EC plus 3 ships.
And when you tested that on stream, if I remember right, you really enjoyed the Kardashev as a torque boat.
That is terrible. I had such a terrible experience. I think I made the VOD of that stream private.
So yeah, so that covers all the bundles. Thank you, me. So looking at the premium ships that came out this year, as I mentioned before, they didn't really have much of an impact overall.
I mean, actually, that's not true. The Duderstat had quite a bit of an impact, just not in the way they intended.
In the other direction.
Okay, we can talk about active EPS management then. This is the worst trait. It actively nerfs your damage. I've heard some people may have talked about it positively. I can only assume that they haven't actually touched it or thought about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you read it fast, it kind of looks like it might be good, but then you look at it a little closer and you go, "Oh, wait a minute."
All right, so let's break this down. While current power level average is below average power setting, you gain 25% EPS. While current power average is above average power setting, you lose 50 EPS, and during firing modes, those effects are tripled. You also gain 25% energy weapon bonus damage, again, tripled during a firing mode. Or rather, you get the 25% flat during a firing mode. On paper, this sounds like it would be a good thing. Like you recover power faster when you are low on energy, and you lose power slower when you have more energy. Except that's not how this works. EPS, it changes the rate at which power flows through your subsystems, whether it's coming in, whether it's going out. And when you think about weapon power costs, you think, oh, that would make your weapon power go like down slower or up higher faster when you're using your guns. This is not the case. Weapon power cost is a fixed value that gets removed instantaneously when weapons are active, and then when they cease being active, it returns it. This trait doesn't play with that at all. What it does do is look at your averages, which are basically always above the average power setting, as the second line of the trait has a definition for, meaning you are always losing EPS flow. This is bad because you may have heard before the term overcap. This is when you have more weapon subsystem power in your subsystem than your cap allows. That power kind of floats around in the ether and doesn't exist and does exist, and it's waiting for room in your weapon power subsystem for it to enter back in at the rate of EPS flow. This is why years ago we used to care a lot about PTR, because when you have more power coming in, you want to come back in faster so that each successive shot starts at a higher power cost calculation for its damage output. So what this means is that the Duderstadt trait makes every single shot that you take do less and less damage because your weapon power isn't coming back in faster. It's terrible. It is a DPS loss.
So for those of you that have been around for a long time too, you may remember back in the day, Sarcasm Detector did a video, EPS is DPS. And that's held true. And then this trait is taking that away from you.
All the time, every time, forever.
Yeah.
You are always losing
it's
it.
ridiculous.
Yep. So if you're running an RRT reroute reserves to weapons build, make sure you throw this on there.
See, here's where like the idea kind of goes, right? During RRTW, your engine power is being drained. And so the idea is that it would slow that down. And kinda but because I need to double check if RRTW removes power costs from engines the same way it does weapons, because if it does, no, it does it at a fixed rate, doesn't it? So that is literally the only case where this would be a bad thing to have less EPS. Nope.
Spencer wouldn't know that's single target.
Nope, I'm right. It does do it on activation. It is literally the same formula. So it's just draining power see, the thing is, I said the wrong word. It's not draining power. It is removing power. And because it's removing power, EPS doesn't affect that effect.
On the flip side, at least if you're into the design of that, at least it looks good.
And because the ship has such a poor reputation now, you can get it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Courier Pilot Raider. I feel bad for people popping their lockbox or their end of year event thing on that, and then going to the exchange and seeing one for like 500 mil.
Or the Borg Jug. That thing's been under 300 million recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
Because anyone going in trying to get the Borg duty officers, they just open the Borg lockbox because the drop
Spencer.
rate is so much higher. It's like a 7 or 8% drop rate from Borg lockbox. So Infinity, the drop rate for Borg is even worse than the ship.
If only there was somebody right now we could interview about opening a lot of Borg packs and being
Yeah.
responsible for a influx of Borg jugs.
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
I would
That's
love to
good.
talk about that on another episode.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, Borgdoffs are definitely a topic. But yeah, no, looking at the roster of the other ships this year, aside from that disaster, we have the Lamar, the Arior, the Nova, the Hirogen Predator, the Etherean Revelation, the Protostar, the Devar, the Connie 2. And when's the last time any of us have even given them a thought?
Actually, a couple
Yeah,
days ago.
Yeah. I've been getting really into the burb, the big Gariori. The big boomerang and hive is actually really nice.
Yeah, it is a slightly better Vodjug.
Yeah, and yeah, it's also really niche, and I don't want, based on that, nobody should run out and buy one.
I used an Ariori jug the other day with the Lamar trait for a
Like a
fire at will
thaw.
setup to take the current fire record. But I don't recommend either for the anyone like listening to this. The Ariori jug, the only reason I went for it is because I didn't want to break the loadouts on my Lavenger. And the Lamar trait, I've already done a video on that, but it works for FAW, but it's a bit rough, like every other FAW extender.
Yeah, and I was using the Avenger and hive, uh, but wanted to see, since this is kind of like a side grade with maybe a slight upgrade in seating, I wanted to see if the variation would produce a little bit better results, and it actually did. So it's going to be my main hive ship going forward. But again, this is just me and just doing one map with 4 other people. That's really the only time I use it.
Mm-hmm. So between the Arior and the Credence, like that's out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah,
6, 7, 8, 9 ships.
yeah. The Hirogen Predator is actually a fun little ship too. It's not, going to change any of the meta stuff, but it's really fun to fly, and the trait can be interesting if you can align it, which is really hard to do.
Yeah. The Orion Devar, like, I don't think that was that bad of a ship. I just think it came in at a poor time in the game
Yeah. It-
for APG.
but like you said, though, none of these ships outside of maybe the Credence, for me at least, was like worthy of actually going out and buying,
Yeah.
much less multiple times.
Yeah, the Credence is the only one I've got on multiple characters.
And we're actually going to talk about this in a bit. All of these ships are fine. They are all flyable.
Mhm.
They will all perform. But it's been nice to not have the high cost things be where the good stuff comes from. Like if you want these ships, they're the things that you want to fly because you want them, not because you have to have them.
Yeah. We've been seeing that trend with promo for a while now. Promo ships used to be the best ships, and over the past couple of years, promos have been shifting more towards they're just visuals.
If you're an altaholic, it's exceedingly gratifying to be able to supply all of your alts with an entire roster of traits that will help you, perform in any content that you want to do. I think every one of my alts. I don't have any promo traits with the exception of the D7. That's the only mods bundle that I bought. Everything else is C store, and most of the time I don't even run the ruin of our enemies, and they can all get 500k plus in ISA. They can 800k in ISE, and that's just, it feels great to not have to buy yet another like Terran Goodbye or something like that.
Moving to some other ships that have come out this year, we got a pair of really interesting event ships. We got the Typhoon, which made the community so happy, and we got given the Nagus. Those are two big things, two big community asks.
Yeah, and for the Nagus, I really like that they went through and updated the stats on it to modernize it. That was a good touch on their part. And the only thing with that is I do hope they make that available again through like the Phoenix store, or ideally like they put that in the GPL store for a couple 100 million GPL. Be a good EC
Yeah,
sync.
yeah, that's a fantastic little like if you need a little starter pug boat and you need some survivability, that ship is perfect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's Intel, it's command, so you can suppression barrage, you can OSS, you've got everything you need for a
Yep,
pug boat.
Yeah,
that's a what is it? A little legendary border skew light.
Yeah,
pretty much.
and everyone just got it. If you were playing, you got it, and that's fantastic. Like even the console's good. Like the damage from it on a kinetic build on it, which you can do on it, is tremendous. And even outside of it, like for most people, 30 to 40k is a really good damage source.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, this has definitely been the year of the event shit because I know a lot of people who are free to play and they don't even want to spend any money at all. Period in the C store, so they just do the event ships. And these ships this year have helped so much in getting these people like some of the what they want to do damage has really helped move that forward and stay alive, especially.
I my only concern is with how good the event ships have been this year and some of the event items, like the weight for those to go into the Muds or Phoenix stores, that's going to suck for anyone throughout 2025. You know, you can't get the Vovin right now. The buyout for it is over. The Ilios, that buyout's still up at least for like another 4 or 5 months. But I really do hope with Deca we see them reduce the time between the events ending and the ships or other event rewards being put into one of those other stores.
Mm-hmm.
Pav and Omni,
Because a 2 year wait, that's
that sucks.
rough.
Yeah. Speaking of the Eleos. Let's talk about the Eleos. What an interesting drop.
That console, that
Yeah.
is one of the few sources of haste that, you know, is actually applying to all weapons, including experimentals and even the Maelstrom. Like that's pretty crazy. The crit chance and severity from it's good. Just all around, such a great console.
Just being able to activate the consoles to proc universal designs if you have that, but don't have the demos.
Yeah.
And these the three toggles, the passive effect changing on what slot it's in. This is all showing to me some really interesting design thinking from Deca. This is
Oh
out of the
yes.
box. This is not what we've seen before. These are new ideas and they're fresh and they're good.
Yeah, anything is better than slot this here for a 3% increase to X.
Yeah, it makes me very hopeful for what we're going to see with the upcoming 15th. Like, if they're getting that creative, you know, who knows what we're going to see with the 15th bundle.
Yeah, I mean we do know that we do know something that's coming. That's the Arc Royal. Um that's another huge like Star Trek nerd cut. I'm really excited about it. I grew up with the game it came from, and it's always been one of my favorites. So as someone who's like extremely nerdy when it comes to Trek, I'm super happy, regardless of what the stats end up being.
So as somebody who's not, but still loves the source material, that's a TMP thing.
That is originally from Starfleet Command 1 and 2. I think it only showed up in 2, but that is TMP era. Yeah.
Okay, that's yeah.
Yeah. And that leads into the theme of the bundle. You know, Thomas has always been into the TMP era, and with him, I believe being in more of a leadership role now, um, I think the bundle's probably going to be like TMP era themed. He's going to do things he's been wanting to do for a while.
Now to date myself, I grew up when those movies were coming out. Though that design aesthetic has always been something I really liked. It's like the NX refit, the old Connies. Those are I
Hmm.
always wanted more, but there was just such a limited selection.
I get the vibe that we're going to be seeing more. I mean, with anniversary bundles being themed, they I expect I would be utterly shocked if we didn't get more TMP skins out of this bundle.
Yeah. And Deca, listen to me. The mirror warship is close enough to be
Yeah.
TMP adjacent. Please put it in the bundle. Thank
I,
you.
I was I was looking through this on stream about 2 to 3 weeks ago, like looking at the promo ships and lockbox ships that would be reasonable if it is like a TMP era bundle, and like that's it. Like I don't know what other ship they could do. They'll find a way. They'll troll us. They'll do
Uh,
Talshar adapted battle cruiser.
No, it'll be a Voth Rampart or something.
Oh
yeah.
no.
Um, yeah. So the Ilios, another thing worth mentioning is the trait is honestly pretty strong. It's a really strong heal, and it's team wide. It's not quite Valdor, but it is strong.
The team wide stuff is I haven't actually used it. I haven't tanked it forever, but I might have to throw that on and just see how that does in a group environment for giggles.
What's a tank?
But yeah, or a support.
Oh no.
Oh god. No, I was fooling with it on a carrier, and I got like 20k shield healing from it hitting all my pets.
Damn.
Like it's a strong trait. Like individually, with like a reasonable shield capacity, it's doing several thousand HPS shields. And it's just a constant tempo. Because you get 10 seconds of shield regeneration every 15 seconds. So you've pretty much given the entire team a passive boost to shield healing that is quite large.
Yeah, Spencer's turned me into an elitist. I no longer trust my team, so every time I go in there, I have to take something that just blows everything up.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the way.
Yeah, yeah. And the ship itself, honestly, like people have given it shit. It's honestly a good ship. It's a good ship. I'm just saying it straight out. It's a good ship.
Yeah, it's acceptable.
I built it out the other day with, of course, a CSV build. The funny thing about that ship is it's so damn small that when you're that under CSV, like how else to describe it, the muzzle flash from the weapons will obscure like almost the entire ship.
Uh-huh.
So it kind of gets a little bit of a Gorn Huntery thing, and like, which the hell way am I pointing?
Mm-hmm.
And where is my ship? But it is a fun little thing to fly around.
It's continuing a trend where you can see that like Cryptic and Deca think of Miracle Worker as the do spec. And so when they're trying to do things that are like geared towards maybe do-sci, Miracle Worker tends to show up, even though we don't want that. But it being on a universal seat on a ship that is made up of nearly all universal ship seats, you can kind of just ignore it or use it if you want to.
I'll give a shout out to 1701 because he just put out a video about please revamp Miracle Worker, and I agree wholeheartedly.
I don't disagree. It almost all of the abilities in it are utterly useless.
Yeah, it's a very popular specialization because of the universal console slot you get from it. But yeah, pretty much all of the Miracle Worker abilities are rough. Even the ones that people consider good, the cooldowns on them, the uptime is just terrible. It is like aside from that universal console, it's the worst specialization we currently have.
Mm-hmm. People see us slotting, or people will see people who do lots of DPS on a build slotting like narrow sensor bands and mixed armament synergy, and it's less about because those abilities are good as opposed to there's nothing else to put there.
Mm-hmm. And something that's come to mind that I think I want to get out there. Cryptic historically, and probably Deca by training, has assigned specializations to ships, not based on build archetypes, but on theme. Miracle Worker is the miracle worker. Intel is sneaky. So when you look at the Eleos, well, what happened with the Eleos? It was flown by Beverly Crusher. They did backwater, like, blockade running medical shit. There's your intel. And she demonstrated that she could keep the ship patched together on her own in the middle of nowhere. There's the Miracle Worker Tinker. That's how they design ships. They don't design ships typically based on our metas. They design them based on theme. And that, like, when people get really upset about these things not being perfect, I'm like, well, look at the ship. Why does it have these specs? I guarantee you can find a lore reason every single time.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Like,
I know it's the truth. It hurts.
There's one person listening to this that wants them to come up with some kind of hero theme thing that has pilot and command and is not limited to a tiny little ship.
Oh no.
I know. Um, I mean, we could talk about. We don't actually have the time to talk about why the Eagle is absolutely dominant and why it's the only thing you can use for torpedoes. But we will
Well,
talk
I
about
mean, we
that at
shouldn't
some
talk
point.
about torpedoes ever. Well, that's not worth talking about. They're torpedoes. Those people are crazy.
You know, something else with the Ilios. We didn't talk about the Obina, but I found an interesting interaction between those two consoles
Oh, did you?
where when the Obina console gets up to 10 stacks and resets, it's also resetting the 3 stacks of the Ilios
Yeah,
toggles.
it does do that. Hey, Deca, if you're listening, that's a bug and we want it fixed because right now I want to use the Obina console and I won't because I'm using Ilios.
The other thing
Well,
with the Obina console, I'm still not sure whether they actually intended it to be Cat 1 or Cat 2, because right now it's giving Cat 1. The blog said Cat 2, and some of the tooltip says Cat 2, and some says Cat 1.
Yeah.
well, if either of you would like to send me that so I could test it, go right ahead.
I won mine. So like I got lucky.
Well, I'm a poor.
There was one other Blockbox console that was sort of like interesting for the passive, but it's in no way worth the money, and that was the
Oh,
Nova
Kelvin.
one.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Kelvin for a moment.
Terrible.
Which one were we
The
talking
Nova
about?
one had
Oh, the Nova ones. Okay.
yeah, so it
Pull
just
it up.
gives you a bunch of like shield regen. Like it
Mm,
scales up pretty high. When I was
mm.
testing it, I think it got up to 400
Ooh.
Wait, you have one of those?
on Tribble.
Okay, that makes
Well, that's
we can continue to
interesting.
be friends.
Yeah, so actually the wiki does have it listed at Impulse 316. The Starship shield regen value granted is 395.2.
That's nuts.
Damn.
That so it's actually like a really interesting console for someone that's looking to do like a shield focused setup, but it's on a ship that is extremely expensive and has like no other value.
That might be like the way to actually make non-tinker shield setups actually viable. Speaking of viable, actually, our discussion topic for today is the word viability and why I hate it so much.
Well, that's just
It's
not
almost as
viable.
bad as. Yeah, what you're talking about is not meta.
All right, I hate you. So viability, you hear it asked a lot. Is this ship viable? Um,
Yes.
what people really
Hmm.
mean is the ship optimal? And I hate that these two concepts are conflated.
Well, it's the same way with good. Is this good? You know, you'll hear viable, good, or optimal. It's like, oh my God, no! Please stop. Make it stop. Yes,
Every
they're all good.
every single ship in this game that is tier 6 and honestly most tier 5s can be built out well enough to get you through pretty much any content the game has. It's just yeah, if you're looking for what's the most optimal, then that narrows your selection, but you know, really you can fly whatever ship you like the visuals of the most and just figure out how to build it out, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, and like this goes to like so it's the build. Ships are platforms on top of which we build. And sure, some are better than others, but with the exception of like certain archetype defining features like secondary deflectors or hangars or the ability to run a specialization firing mode, you can put like a do build, for example, on literally every T6 in the game and it will do fine. It is, in fact, viable. It will be able to succeed at content and succeed well because the structures are all the same.
And on this topic, or somewhat related, I've had this question pop up a couple times in the past couple of months. But for any new players that happen to be listening to this part, the ship that you can fly any ship on any career. As an engineer, you are not limited to a cruiser. You can fly an escort, you can fly a side ship if you want. Fly whatever.
Mm-hmm. And like when this viability topic comes up, it comes from a misunderstanding of where a build's power comes from, and the power comes from synergy. It comes from building a machine that works. Um, and it doesn't care if you have 6 guns or 8. It just cares that they're firing under a firing mode that you have built around.
Yeah, and then the Resolute enters the picture.
Okay,
Look,
okay. Look,
I mean,
I know. Well,
it's a fine vessel.
this isn't bad. Let's talk about the Resolute because it's been in my head for a while. So it's a 4/4. And people are gonna be shocked when I say, guess what? Put cannons on it. No, really. Put singles on it and see what happens.
the funny thing is that legitimately like was one of the early game strategies for cruisers like that was you would put single cannons on it and turrets and just use CSV or CRF.
Mm-hmm. And it's still like, all right, so this has way too much end seating, but you can still put your machine in. You can run this as a classic, like I said, you don't have Voven. Run this as a classic, passively built setup. You will still do numbers.
Even if you run the other meme ship that I always hear about, the Samsar.
It honestly doesn't matter. Like the math. Here's some math, kids. I'm not even gonna talk about the numbers. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. Scatter Volley 1 singles will still do better than Fa.
And you don't have to annoyingly manage your uptime.
It's Scatter Volley is not dominant right now, and that's the problem with Scatter Volley. Whether or not you think that's good or not, I think it's good. I love cannons, but you can take a ship, and as long as you can fit a copy of Scatter Volley, that ship can do cannons. And there's only like one ship I can think of off the top of my head that like can't fit Scatter Volley and Beta together. There's like almost everything can. And that's all you need. So like the Resolute has way too much eng, but that just means okay, so you make some choices, right? Like you can fit Suppression Barrage on there because it's got a Lieutenant Commander command seat on the eng. You bring Rally Point Marker, it's not terrible. You bring Reverse Shield Polarity. Guess what? You're staying alive way harder. That's a cushion to sit on. You fit your Emergency Power Chains. That's 2. It leaves you with
You could run 2 copies of auxiliary to inertial dampeners, and there's also a duty officer you can get off the exchange. I think it's like a maintenance or matter antimatter scientist
I think
or
it's
something.
matter.
Yeah, okay, so you can do that with the 2 copies of aux to inertial dampeners and make the thing really speedy. It's a fun combo.
Mm-hmm. And you throw in some filler, you get Photonic Officer and say Tractor Beam in there, or Hazard Emitters if you're not running Uncon. Like that's the thing, is it doesn't fit into the meta, the Uncon meta, but that doesn't mean the ship can't be built. And this is where people like we can, I think maybe next time, talk about the nature of the meta and why it has nothing to do with core mechanics. You can put a mechanically sound build on here and do hundreds of thousands of DPS. Like, if I had some spare X tokens, I'd go do it right now just to prove my point. But, like, I've taken the Legendary Sovereign and broken 1 million with singles. Like, you can do numbers. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
You know, what the hell is that from? We're all fine here now. How are you? Oh,
Star Wars.
Jesus Christ. I actually had to go in my head and act this out because that's what happens when you get old. But anyway, how dare you reference Star Wars in this beloved Trek universe?
Yeah, that is absolutely terrible. How could
I
you?
know. I'm chaos. I'm chaos. That is
You know
what
what?
I do.
You know what? Controversial Star Wars ships are better. But anyway, go ahead.
What?
Oh my god. Okay, you're gonna get us like canceled. So yeah, the long and short, viability. Learn what the word means, please, because everything is viable. Everything works.
But is it optimal?
See, that's the thing. That's what people are asking when they hear viable. It's okay. So there are a small subset of ships that are really, really, really good at the things that we want them to do with our current setups for what we fly. And when people ask, "Is this viable?" they mean, "Is this in the realm of optimal? Is this one of the best choices you can make?" And that only matters if you're crazy like we are.
Yeah, yeah, and optimal means different things for different people. For if you have a goal in mind, optimization is going to be different for whether or not your goal is the same as mine.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, the Juggernaut is an optimal ass ship, but it isn't an optimal ship for doing something like an HSA solo as fast as possible. All kinds of stuff because it's optimal. It just depends on
Yeah,
how you want to use it.
it's. I know you said we'll talk about the meta more next time, but yeah, there's different metas for each thing you're wanting to do, and yeah, with that, there's going to be optimal ships for the different environments. The solo runs, we're using the Mirror Strike Wing Escort. For the high end runs, where we're setting the really big numbers, we're using the Avenger, Fod Jug, the Ariori. You just got to have the right tool for the job for what you're doing.
And I would say for 90% or 98.9% of content in the game, if you're just playing the game to have fun and flying around and you want to do some TFOs, you want to do some patrols, you want to just kind of mess around, almost every single ship is optimal for that.
Hmm. And it even has some different requirements from what we like at the high end. If you're trying to run around and pug and do random stuff, having suppression barrage from command spec is really, really good. So all of a sudden, all of these ships that we wouldn't normally look at, you can look at and say that's really good for me.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't want to fly. I mean, not that I don't want to fly it. I actually do fly the Fleet Norway, which is a fantastic little ship for survivability. But if I was really interested in pushing super high numbers in solos or in random elite TFOs, I wouldn't fly it. But I just like to be able to live and keep other people alive long enough to do as much damage as possible to carry if need be.
I
So
thought
for me, that
you
ship is optimal.
I thought you liked to fly the Connie 3.
I would if I had it. You got? Oh no, it's well, yeah. You have one. Can I have one?
Terrible.
I would make a YouTube video extolling the virtues of the Connie 3 and how amazing a ship it is and how wonderful it looks.
Yeah, this is why you'll hear me get really salty whenever someone like goes out and talks about like how bad a ship is, because there are no bad ships. There are less good ships for certain things, but bad, you'll never hear me say that.
I think the saying I've also seen is, there's no bad ships, just bad builds.
Yes.
Yeah, and bad pilots.
Yes.
Yes.
People don't understand. That's a topic for another day, but people don't quite understand just how huge of an impact, the piloting aspect is.
Mm-hmm.
And how many aspects of piloting that what actually makes up piloting, because that also includes your activation, a bit your timing,
Yeah.
your positioning, all of that is included in piloting. I mean, build is a separate thing, but you'll get way more. You can take a bad build and be a good pilot and get something out of it.
Yep. And this comes back to why I hate viability, because it is it's the build that is or is not viable. You can like that will or will not work. It, and that's up to you to figure out, like, is this working? Is it not working? Then I need to make a change. And that change is almost never the ship.
What we need is for somebody to do a video on how to build a ship.
Oh, I wonder who's doing that right now.
That would be amazing. It's
Yeah.
not it's not a corpulent lover boy from Iowa. It is somebody else though.
Oh yeah, putting definitely putting pressure out to get that out. Yeah, no, I'm putting out a video. If any of you have ever read my article How to Build a Fucking Ship, there might be a video version coming soon. Nice and fancy and pretty. So hopefully that'll get out within January.
Will it have the same level of profanity?
Oh, always.
Good.
Spencer has found that if you put an actual date ahead of the release, that actually is very helpful.
Oh yeah. Every time I put a date on, oh, I'm gonna have a video out by this day. Oh, something's happened.
Yeah, Orange Chicken in World of Warships has happened.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm procrastinating because I'm putting a lot of work into this video. You guys are actually going to love it. Like it's slick. And I've shopped around some a clip I've got of it to other builders, and they're all really excited. So all I can say is that, hey, if the people who know shit are excited, you should be excited too.
Well, if it follows the same quality as the Gunslinger stuff, then yeah, it'll be good times.
I've been so happy with the performance of Gunslinger.
Yeah, I prefer to watch the content creators that follow a script. So that's good.
I mean, hey.
You're toxic.
Not how is that toxic? It's just I like people who have an outline in a script. That's it. I'm not saying anything else other than that. That's what I prefer.
Hey, I'm
Thank you
always
very
about
much.
quality. That's my deal. I may not drop often, but it's gonna be amazing when it does.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming up on the end of our time here together today. This was, as has been before, really fun.
Yeah, Spencer's gonna send me a message later because I've been picking on him. Which, by the I know this is my favorite thing to say to him, and I know he loves it. So I didn't mean any of that in a bad way.
Terrible. We didn't talk about, or did you guys want to talk about the Phoenix stuff?
Oh yeah, we should do that real quick.
Oh yeah.
So Phoenix changes, updates, new things. How fucking amazing is that?
It's been
It is
great on
something.
the Dill-X. I mean, between that and the other stuff they had going on over the winter break there, we shed what, like 2.5 mil off the backlog?
Yeah. Has
Uh,
it been rising? I haven't even checked.
I think it has been starting to go back up.
Yeah.
if they keep this tempo though, like if like we've got now the potential of new things being added, things hitting Phoenix Store before it even hits Muds, like this is a big
I'm
deal.
yeah. If they go that route, because I'm of two minds. I mean, it's nice that they're in Phoenix, and it's nice that Phoenix gets updated, especially with ships. But those tokens are so hard to come by. I mean, if it's a limited time that they go into Phoenix before they go into Muds, I'm fine with that. But honestly, I would rather those ships go into Muds just for the account unlock, unless they change Phoenix in some drastic way, which
Yeah.
I doubt they'll ever do.
I mean, I think they could just have it be where you just use a second Epic Phoenix token to make it an account wide unlock. That would be cool, but I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I would, with how difficult those things are to obtain, I would just imagine, I'd be fine with them just making it account unlock. Period. Like you get one of these things. This is now your ship on the account, but I would be really salty because I opened a lot of Zorn Interceptors and Plus Charles.
There's probably going to be more events like what we saw earlier this year where we got a free Phoenix token.
Mhm.
I could see them doing that type of stuff again. So that'll
That'd be good.
hopefully make those a little bit more accessible.
Yeah. And they also like moved event items from Muds over to Phoenix, so there's the potential of seeing more of that happening. Like I'm looking with an eye towards stuff like the Pavin Omni being so critical to the meta. Like that
Or
seems
the
like
Tholian
more.
core.
Or the Tholian Core.
Yep.
This is true.
And that was really nice because I was able to pick up quite a bit of that stuff. Those a lot of those other tokens aren't anywhere near as difficult to obtain. So
Yeah, a lot of these items in the mud store, they're not worth the $20 on a sale, or yeah, sure,
no.
certainly not the $80 base cost. So having them moved over to Phoenix means people are actually going to buy them and use them.
Unfortunately, the only downside is putting that fucking beacon has made that a bit more prolific in some of my TFOs.
I think it's been very immersive. I've been turning on HDR and like the full array local dimming on my monitor, and just every time it goes off, I want the full flashbang experience.
Well, you know the shadows in Hiroshima where the nuclear explosion happened, and they would just the shadows of the people that were standing there would get burned into the wall. You should see the wall behind my monitor.
Oh
It,
no.
it's just a shadow of me just like sitting there. It's like Jesus.
Awful. Fucking awful. But yeah,
That
no,
was dark.
Phoenix. I mean, so is the Shadow.
It's how dare I reference something that happened 100 years ago?
Uh, but fucking yeah, no, I mean this is good for the Deluxe. The fact that they're actually looking at the Deluxe and saying we need to fix this is pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and it was also nice that he acknowledged that this is likely. I mean, it's just a band aid, and it's not a long term fix. So they're aware that it's an issue, and at least had some communication that
Yeah, and
to that effect.
on the Vandy shields in the Dill store, Borticus also said that the next time around that they do
Mm.
one of those Dill Vandy shield events, that they'll have some of the other newer shields in there as well.
That's fantastic because like Vanity Fields are such a good repeatable sync right now.
Yes.
And I really wish they would bring back some of the older ones. Like I miss the platinum, I miss the breast cancer awareness. There's a couple of them that I just didn't have access to because I wasn't playing at the time.
I'd see people get mad about breast cancer awareness being monetized.
Monetized, yes, but given away or some other event that unlocks that would
Yeah,
be interesting, or at
another.
least not even a pink one. Just you could just make it mauve. I don't care, just something different.
All right. So now we are definitely over time right now. This is going to be a longer episode, but I'm okay with that. Um, this has been great, and I have been Mara.
I have been the casual one.
I have been and still am mostly Cheops.
I'm slowly going insane doing solo infected.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
You're not
Yeah.
going. You could just drop the going.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
But thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah. This has been the Captain's Table. See you all next time.
Thank you for watching.
Enjoy.